So good morning everyone, my name is Suyash and I work with Red Hat as a engineer on the RHEL Linux. Today we will be talking about sustaining yesterday's Linux and how we are delivering security to today's workloads and for the workloads in the future. Now everyone loves tech, right? We get excited for updates. Yesterday I got an update on my phone for iOS 26 and we as individuals love updates, but it is not the same case with enterprises. We love new kernels, new distros, and everybody is bragging about how they upgraded from Fedora 42 to 43 or 44. But some of the most critical systems in the world are running Linux older than 10 years. That might come as a shock to you, but it is true. They are engineered that way. So today we will talk about why that happens, how that happens, and all of the risk involved into this, and how we as a team are securing all of the Linux systems without breaking them. So let's get started for today. And today we have the agenda. It's very simple: the why, the constraints, the trade-off, the how, and the impact. So getting started with why. As we all know, Linux is everywhere. Even your remote controls, your smart systems, smart gadgets, your washing machines, your refrigerators run Linux in the background, and they have a small Linux kernel or a small Linux distro that operates everything there. But in the bigger world and into the bigger picture, Linux is used by governments, telecom industry, healthcare, finance. And these applications are version bound. So if you install application, like if you use your banking application, it will be deployed and it will be installed in such a way that it only works with a specific RHEL version or specific Ubuntu version. So this is how it works in the broader scope. For these people and for this infrastructure, downtime is not at all acceptable. So how do you enable to upgrade the systems, and what are the trade-offs there? So when you ask why just not upgrade, so I'll tell you why it is not very good to upgrade or why it is good to upgrade. That was said for the what do you call it, the traditional Linux distributions. In the modern native cloud native world, it is very fast. It is growing every day. It changes rapidly. There are containers, there are CI/CD pipelines, and everything operates in a very fast and a fast-paced way. And it is all delivered by automation-based infrastructure. So moving on to the next part, this is the entire enterprise Linux market. So RHEL covers around 43%. The next biggest competitor is Ubuntu. Some of the market is owned by SUSE, and there are some other distributions that cover the other part. Moving on, why do you think, or why do I think that upgrading is not always a good option? The constraints. So why upgrading is risky? As I said before, all of the applications that are deployed or that are run into the banks or into the mission critical systems, they are very closely tied with operating systems. So let's say government of India starts a new nuclear program and they want to install some systems. So when the approval comes from the ministry, it will always have all of the operating system, the infrastructure, the hardware, and all of the things that are getting certified. And if we change them, it will break their compliance. So first thing first, OS is tied to the compliance approvals. There are cryptographic modules that are approved by FIPS. So FIPS is a institution run by the United States government, and they validate your cryptographic modules. And if you break them, it's millions of dollars of loss. Then again, vendor binaries are compiled for specific glibc versions, or some use GCC. So if you break them, all of your application comes down. And almost all time, the hardware is also tied to specific operating systems. So let's say that a Dell R server is tied to RHEL 7, something like that. So most of the times, your hardware certifications are also tied to your operating systems. And if I even get the courage, and even if I do upgrade the system, what will it trigger? You will require a full recertification of your entire application module. You will need to hire an external auditor to do the audit and make sure that you are compliant with the regulations and everything. Again, this is lot more expensive than staying on the current operating system and getting getting patches every regularly. So moving to the trade-off, what would happen if I upgrade and if I don't upgrade? So you have two options. You have to upgrade and you have to stay. So if you choose to upgrade, as I said, there is downtime risk. So if your bank application goes down, imagine what would be it would be a catastrophic event. Like you will not be able to make payments, people would not be able to transact, send money and stuff like that. All of the economy comes to a downhaul. So there's a huge risk of downtime, there's recertification required, it again costs a lot of money to get recertified in it, and it's very costly. You might break your integrating application. So most of the times an application is dependent on another application or another service or another API, and you might break it, and it will again cost you time and money and efforts to get it all started up. Again, there are also vendor compatibility concerns, and there's a huge risk. And if you choose to stay, like what most of the companies right now do, you get backported CV fixes, you get your stability preserved, your existing certification stays valid, and you don't have to redo all of the things. And the most important, your operational continuity is maintained. You can run your operations as long as you are you get all of the security fixes, right? So these are the security risks and the operational risks associated with upgrading and staying. Now, in the broader picture, in the enterprise world, what actually wins? In regulated environments such as banks or telecom or government, operational stability always wins. You have to stay operational, you don't have any other option, because if you cause any downtime, it would be more damaging than a delayed update or a delayed security patch. So this is what we want. You want operational stability, right? So how do you do it? It is a lot of effort, and a lot of teams require a lot of input into it. So how sustaining engineering solves it, right? We as a team, we track upstream CVs. We track how the researchers are submitting CVs or research papers, and how systems are vulnerable to certain packages. We track them. We assess if these CVs are applicable to our legacy code. So if you say that I have Python 2, it is way outdated. It has been outdated for like 5-6 years, I'd say. So you have to assess that if the CV is even applicable to the code, and then we have to start to re-engineer the fixes from the upstream to the older kernels or to the older libraries. And the most important thing, if you preserve the ABI and the API stability, you don't have to re-trigger the certifications, right? So for those who don't know, ABI is application binary interface and API is application programming interface. So if you reserve and preserve all of the things that were there, if you don't add new things, your stability is preserved, and you don't have to go through the whole recertification dilemma. And we already have some customers, so we can validate it against the certified stacks where already things are set up and running. Now, what this achieves? So businesses will have more time to focus on multiple things. We look for your security, your stability. You don't have to go into force upgrades. So let's say that my system is running an older version of RHEL 6. And if I go to Red Hat support, they will say that you are running a very old system, we can't help you, that it is been out of maintenance for like 4 or 5 years. So I will have no other option than to upgrade. But with this, you won't be forced to upgrade your operating system, your certifications remain intact, and your operational continuity is always preserved. What is the impact of this whole thing that these all of the Linux vendors are doing? So this enables all of the businesses to maintain their regulatory compliance. So in Europe or in the United States or in India as well, we have strict regulatory compliance that if you want to do something, you have to stay compliant to the regulations, and you have to follow a certain track that is being declared by the government. So there are certain acts that you need to follow. So you maintain your regulatory compliance. You don't have to get it recertified and everything. You keep your national financial system secure. You keep your government secure. So this is what you get. You prevent forced and high risk updates. So upgrading an entire application stack, it takes months of work, and you have to upgrade each of the systems. You have to test if all of the applications or your code is again relevant to the new operating system. So a lot of dependencies in the new operating system change. So you don't have to worry about this thing. You can stay on your current system, and you get more time to control your modernization. So I'd say that if picture that engineer has to do all of these things. You have to look for upstream CVs, you have to fix them, you have to look for any new attacks and all of this stuff. If sustaining engineering comes into picture, you have all of the time to channel your time and efforts into new and emerging technologies and develop the new technologies and look into the market that is for the future, not in the past. And I would like to close on this quote. Old Linux is not neglect. It is engineered stability under deliberate control. You have engineered stability, you have control, security, and you are mitigating all of the risks that come with older Linux systems, and it's all good then. Now I'd like to open for questions if you have it. Yeah. So the question is that, can I share any example of how impactful or how sustaining engineering helps someone or any other company to make their efforts less? So I'd say that I don't think I can divulge names, but there's a very big bank that is present worldwide, and they have operational centers in all of the world. So they had a requirement to build a certain CV for a very old version of Docker. So we helped them to fix that CVs, fix that issues into their Docker versions, and we shipped them in like a week or something. So they had their operational security, their certification was not re-triggered, and they had to do, like, they were operational by the week. So this is how it helps everyone to stay operational. Does that answer? Yeah. Anyone else? Yes, sure. You go first.
Yeah, still some bugs are taking so much of fixing. What's your opinion about it? Because
Sorry?
there are some CVs are there. It was reported 4 years back. Still
Okay.
the bugs are not fixed. So what's your...
Yeah, so the question is, like, there are some bugs that are still posted like 4 years back or 5 years back, and they're not still fixed. So how we assess is that we look at the, if it is vulnerable and what is the criticality issue involved. So we have a rating system that goes from 0 to 10, right? So if we see a bug or a CV that is above, let's say 8, so we'll try to fix it in that certain time. But if our engineers derive that this may not be a very critical CV, or this is a very edge case, like somewhere you have a system involved. So I worked on a printing thing, and the CV involved 2 other CVs that you need to exploit first, and then you could trigger a remote code execution command. So this is how we assess, and this is how we decide if it is like, we get a lot of CVs, right? So we have to decide if it is worth fixing or not. And there's no one person involved. There are entire teams who figure out if it is that critical or not.
So what's your view about the shared kernel containerization? Because while you're containerizing application, it was every process is taking upon a single kernel.
Sorry?
So while you're containerizing many applications, every process was everything was taken on a single kernel. So
Okay.
it has exposed some kind of vulnerability. So what's your opinion about it?
I'm sorry. After the kernel thing.
Yeah, the thing is, like, if you are creating many containers, the process is performed in a single kernel.
Right.
Single kernel. So it has some exploits and vulnerability. So what's your opinion about it?
What's my opinion on multiple containers running a single kernel?
Yeah,
As long as the question is that what's my opinion on multiple containers running a single kernel. So as long as your core operating system is patched it does not affect your entire containers. So if you have a cluster of, let's say, 1,000 pods, so if your core operating system is patched and it's secure, then you don't have to worry about all of the other things, right? So your kernel is getting patched and you are getting security updates for your kernel. So as long as that stays true, you have nothing to worry about. You have to ask something?
I have a question like normally how we use OS like Ubuntu or something.
Uh-huh.
So we have packages, we install packages.
Right.
So I wanted to ask like in production level or if you are working with government,
Uh-huh.
you are installing like small dependencies.
Right.
So like that small things are does like it also matters in like security.
Yes. So the question is, do the small updates or things that are done in governments or other enterprises, do they matter? So I'll give you an example. My flatmate works at a very big bank. So for him to even introduce a new package, he has to get his approvals from a chain of command. So he has to put an approval request to his manager that will get approved to the security team. So this is how enterprises work. So if you have, let's say, Python 3.10, and you think that I want to introduce Python 3.12 into the new code. So you have to get approvals from your hiring for the chain of command. And it always involves the risk, like they will have to assess if there are any new CVs that are being introduced in Python 3.12 or 14. And you have to check, and there is compliance and everything that comes into the picture. So for us as individual users, it's very easy. Like our systems, nobody is going to hack our systems, right? But for these big enterprises, it is very risky for them to get into new stuff and get into new operating systems. So these people have a long list of check marks that you need to tick to get it done. So
Also like I was reading about Fedora codebase. So
yeah.
it has like read-only file system like.
So we are out of time, so we can discuss it later, sure. So thank you everyone, and have a nice day.